Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Heavenly Chats. I'm Emma and I'm Chloe, and welcome back. We're doing
Another episode.
We're doing the Q&A, and I'm excited because this is going to be, I feel like this is our most requested.
I feel like our Q&As are always our longest episode.
Yeah, we are keeping it shorter this week. We might do a part 2 next week because it doesn't need to be an hour and a half episode. It doesn't.
The first ever one we did on her podcast by herself, it was like 2 hours long.
So long.
2 hours long. And then we were like, well, we just need to start our own at that point.
I was going to say, that's what birthed this podcast practically.
So that's our insider scoop.
Okay. Yeah, I'm drinking so much water throughout this episode. I have like cotton mouth and I don't know why.
Ew, it's the worst.
It's weird.
It's literally the worst.
I've been talking like all day though.
It probably is because we eat dinner.
Golly, I'd be puffy today. Anyway, we are answering you guys' questions on, it's like we're in the dating series. We're in the love series right now because it's February. And we are going to be answering your guys' questions. You guys asked a ton of questions on our Instagram, Heavenly Chats. Follow it if you don't.
All things love, relationships, forgiveness, all the fun things. All the fun things that play.
Yeah. I feel like Christian dating was like the one thing I had not the most questions about, but a lot at the beginning of my relationship. Because I'm like, what am I doing? This is so different. Because I've dated people in the past, but not godly relationships. So it's a lot different.
We definitely don't have all the answers either.
Yeah. Not even close. Not even close. We're just going to share from our own experience.
Yeah.
Is what we're going to be doing. Because there's no like one right way in a relationship. Every relationship is so unique and so different. But yeah, we've learned lessons throughout this last year.
Yeah, 1000%. But it's definitely something that it's like trial and error. You're like, well,
no, it really
that was
is.
fine at first, and now I don't like that, or we've changed so much in this area, so now we're not going to do that, or whatever it is. It's like we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's tricky just because like you and your significant other are constantly evolving and growing within your faith, within your personal lives, within your relationship. The love is deepening, your connection's deepening, your faith is deepening. But again, too, people also have highs and lows within their walk with faith. They have highs and lows in relationships.
Yeah.
There's so many factors and variables that affect it.
Yeah.
There's no like right or wrong way, and everyone's going to have different boundaries. Everyone's going to have different values and morals. We are just going to, like I said, answer some questions.
Lots of questions.
Yeah.
So we kind of broke down like the
Most asked.
the 4 kind of top ones. And we'll go over those. But we'll probably talk your guys' ear off for the next hour, so just be ready.
Yeah, we say there's 4 questions and it's going to be a 80-minute conversation, but that's okay.
Okay. You want to pray? You want me to?
I feel like I haven't in a while, so I will, but we'll see.
She said we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. Lord, I want to thank you for bringing Emma and I here today to share your glory and to speak into everyone listening. Lord, I pray that we can help guide them and lead them and give them whatever they need from you through us. Lord, I pray that you speak through Emma and I, and that this is only for your glory, and that everyone listening has a lovely and blessed day. And we thank you for another beautiful sunny day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
It's probably not beautiful and sunny everywhere, but it is in Arizona, so I'm going to give God thanks for that.
Yeah, the past week here has been like really cloudy.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's been like overcast, but the weather has been beautiful.
Yeah.
It's been like 75.
And the next week,
giving like San Diego vibes. And then today's been like blue skies. Like I could have gone out and tan today. I honestly
like
am kind of mad that I didn't. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna tan.
5.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna tan.
No, I am. The pool weekend. Anyway, okay, let me get a swig of water because
Now we'll get into it. So the first question. So this might be someone's exact question, but like we kind of like narrowed a lot of them down that were asked in like a different way. But this is like the overall question
theme.
It says the best way to keep God in the center of your relationship. This one is interesting. I feel like it's going to be different for every single relationship.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that has helped like me and Jake, and like you guys could probably attest to this too, is like A, going to church together, and B, praying together. I think they're like the 2 most cliche things, like, oh, those are easy.
Yeah.
But it's like God sees like 2 people actively working towards the same goal together, and he's like, oh, like one's not going here and doing this, or one's not over here doing something else. Like they're actually coming together, unified, doing the same thing to follow me.
Yeah.
And so therefore, like I see they're both chasing the same goal. So basically like equally yoked in that sense.
Yeah.
But I think it's so much easier for you guys to talk about the sermon that you just sat in Sundays, or the same songs that they sang on Sunday, or I don't know, like every church kind of has like their own little quirks about it, whatever. Like obviously we both know those because we go to the same church.
Yeah.
Or we sit in the same service, or we listen to the same sermons. And so it's like easier for us to connect on that sense than like being completely connected. Some couples might be long distance or whatever, but I would try your best to like watch the same YouTube sermons or to, I don't know, try your best to like make it the most unified as you can.
Yeah, I think unified is good.
So, and then praying, I think that one's just like the same kind of situation, but no one, even like friends praying together or family praying together or two spouses praying together or whatever. I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. But the enemy hates that.
Yeah.
If he sees one or more person working together towards favor against the enemy and towards God, like it's not good for him.
Yeah.
He does not like that. And so I think praying is like the most powerful thing that you could do for your relationship, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I agree. I completely agree, because I think too, it's really powerful to see each other pursuing the Lord, like actually seeing it with your own eyes, like seeing them in the service, seeing them worship, seeing them pray.
It's so cute.
Like witnessing it, being a witness to their journey is so important at keeping God at the center, because it really shows the importance and the pursuit that they do have. Because people can say, like, a lot of guys will be like, oh, I believe in God, I pursue the Lord, I go to church, Proverbs, whatever is in my bio. But it's like when you actually witness the effort and the pursuit and the heart posture of their faith, it gives you like a new understanding, one, of your significant other, and two, it just grows your faith, watching their faith grow too. You can kind of call each other higher in a sense as well. And I think just the more alive that your faith is, and it like feeds off of each other too. Like if I'm really, really like high on Jesus for a minute, which like you have highs and lows obviously on your walk. But if I'm on fire and Kyle is around me witnessing that, it's going to affect him and ignite his fire as well. So having each other like close in proximity when you're on fire is really important. I think too, like Emma said, praying is really important. Kyle and I honestly haven't done that until recent, but we started praying together. And prayer is powerful. Like it does a lot. And like I said, witnessing that and hearing that, it just does something inside of you. I don't know. Like it's just like an intimate thing. Like prayer is very intimate. So when you can like witness your significant other doing that, it's like because like a covenant relationship is you, your significant other, and like the Lord. Like if that's like
that's the trio.
That's the trio.
That's the trio of
the trio's got to be alive together, you know? So you have to be together in church. You have to be together in worship and prayer, not all the time, because it's still your walk and your faith and your worship and your prayer. Like you need to have your own independent areas of that. But I think when you're in a relationship and you want to keep it centered around the Lord, you do have to like share those moments.
Yeah. I love what you said about how like one person's fire can ignite another person's fire. And like we talked about that a lot. It's like who you surround yourself like really matters, because if I'm going through something really tough, but she's like having something amazing going on, it's like I'm not going to get upset because God's giving her everything that she's asked, prayed for. I just know that he's in the neighborhood and that I'm next type of thing. Totally. And so I think it's the same with like who you're with. But also it all just kind of comes down to like they have to chase it just as much as they're chasing you, or vice versa. It's never really going to work otherwise. I mean, I'm not going to say never, but it's going to be frustrating and kind of hard. And like a couple of the questions we did get is like, how do we not feel resentment towards our boyfriend because he's not wanting to live the same life that I am? And it's like, the only thing that you can do at that point, if they don't understand where you're at or like what is going on, all you can really do is pray for them, but that might not be your person if they're not actively chasing the same things you're chasing.
No.
And it doesn't even need to be God. It could be the gym. It could be the way you act, the way you talk, the way you eat, the way you like to dress, what kind of cars you like. It could be anything, but obviously this is a Christian podcast and this is like what we talk about. But like if you go to a different podcast, they could be talking about like, oh, well, he doesn't have the same aesthetic that I have, or he doesn't want to live in the same state that I do, or we just live two completely different lives. Like,
it's like a non-negotiable as a Christian.
Yeah,
so it's like another Christian.
It's like a city boy versus a country boy.
Yeah.
It's like world person versus word person. It's like they don't really mix very well.
You can't have a relationship centered around God if both of your hearts like aren't on God and pursuing God. And one of my good friends actually was telling me that she was in a relationship and it was a very strong relationship. They were both in love. There was obviously every relationship has its like good and bad. It's not perfect, but she had to actually break it off because she was getting called back to the Lord and he wasn't a believer. Like he wasn't against it, but he was not equally yoked and he was not equally pursuing the Lord. And she like had to, like she felt called to end the relationship. She didn't want to. And that's like a part of her testimony and it shows her faith. And I put myself in that position. I'm like, wow, like that takes some faith and some obedience, but capital obedience, capital O, like that's crazy. And it just shows though, like your heart, like God has to be number one in the relationship for sure. And I think people forget that. It's like God and then it can be your significant other, but it cannot be your significant other than God. And if it's misaligned, the whole relationship's going to be misaligned.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
I've honestly been through something like that too. Like my ex-boyfriend, like we kind of started going to church together-ish, but he like just hung around people that were not, like very fond of him doing that. And he felt pulled two different ways because he was like, well, I really love this girl and like this is what she wants and what she wants with her life. And so like I want that. But like I love my friends and I've been friends with them for forever. And like we would get fights about it all the time. And I was like, you can't have both. Like either you choose that and go that way, or you don't. And he kept telling me that he didn't want to do that and like that he cared about this side of it more. And I was like, all right, well, you're not doing anything about it. So like,
and two, though,
goodbye. Like I love you, but I gotta go. Like I can't.
And two, though, like in the relationship, if you're in a position like that where you are wanting to pursue the Lord and then the significant other isn't, but is deciding to, even if they're deciding to, they can't do it for you. They have to do it for themselves. Like they have to want it. They have to want to know God because they want to know God, not just so they can stay in the relationship. And that was another part of my friend's story was he was willing to do it, but she knew it wasn't because he truly felt called and truly wanted to. She's like, I hope my obedience to the Lord could plant a seed in him, and I hope he does find the Lord someday. Not because I think we're going to get back together, because that's just not what she feels. I mean, who knows? But like ultimately, she doesn't see that happening. But she hopes that maybe her obedience to ending the relationship and showing the transformation that's happened in her life can plant a seed for him that he can find the Lord and then soon find a woman of God and be happily married. But you can't force someone into it because of like you. Like I can't force if I'm dating a guy. Like I can't be like, you have to go to church with me and know the Lord. They're not going to pursue it out of like pure intention. And that's not healthy. You know, like they have to want it themselves. And that's hard because it's like how you just have to like pray about that too and have your own discernment of, are they really wanting to know the Lord or are they really wanting to just, you know, like stay with me essentially? Because a lot of guys will do that. A lot of guys will be like, I'll go to church with you. I'll do other things. But if they're not actually present in church, you know, like they're sitting in there, but like there's a difference between being present in a service and not. And are they actually reading their Bibles and they're actually like praying to and doing the things, like that's huge.
Yeah. No, that's actually really good. I didn't think we'd be talking about that part.
Yeah.
I am glad that we did.
Yeah.
I think we answered that. Are we good to move on?
Yeah. Question number 2 is how to forgive when things get hard.
Dun dun dun.
Forgiveness is hard, but it's part of being like a Christian is to forgive, you know?
This is like nothing to do with relationships, but I'm going to bring this up because we were talking about this last night. I was like, have you seen all of the Avery Woods thing
Yeah.
that is going on TikTok right now. And like she lives in Arizona. Like I'm actually surprised we've never ran into her.
I've seen her.
Actually?
Yeah, Nordstrom, her and Emily. And I didn't know who they were. And they were vlogging and it caught my attention. And I was like, oh, like two vloggers. Like I don't see that very often. And then my friend's like, that's Emily Kaiser and Avery Woods. I'm like, who? I didn't even know who they were. This was literally a year ago. And then I looked them up and I was like, oh, wow.
Million followers.
Bajillion followers. Yeah.
That's so funny. Anyways, I'm sure you guys probably know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
She
Honestly, really sad.
is getting canceled right now because she said things about Jesus and religion that she probably shouldn't have.
Really
And so
it was
it was a little harsh. It was a little harsh for sure. And this has, like I said, I'm going off topic here, but my entire For You page has been like, screw Emily Kaiser, like,
Avery Woods.
oh yeah, that's what I meant. Avery Woods, whatever. And I was like, ooh, like, I just feel really bad for her. Like, she has not posted in 5 days. I'm like, she shouldn't have said that, no. She shouldn't have probably aired it, no. She shouldn't think like that, no. But she did, and it happened. She can't do anything about it now, and now she has 2.5 million followers.
Well, it's decreasing. I think it's like 2.4, 2.3 now.
All of social media right now, like, down her throat.
Yeah.
I personally would not want to live anymore. I'd be like,
I would have just
done. I'm over it. And
yeah.
here's where I'm going with this is like, no, she shouldn't have done that. No, I'm probably not going to be one of her biggest fans anymore. Not that I ever really was.
I can't, like, with that, like, I'm choosing not to support her now, but I'm not going to be like a hater.
Yeah. And so, like I'm saying, like, all sins are equal.
Yeah.
So let's just say your spouse or your boyfriend or whatever has done something that you don't like. We're all sinners. The only perfect person to walk the earth was Jesus. We've all sinned. We all are sinners. We sin every single day. So, like, me doing something small, like a small sin in, like, the world's eye is the exact same equivalent of what Avery Woods did.
Yeah.
So why am I to sit here and be like, judging her for sinning a different way that I sin?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? So, like, when I get, like, mad at Jake, I'm like, okay, that's not the way I sin. So I'm going to get mad at you about it. But, like, I do things that he doesn't like and he doesn't do those things. So it's like, at the end of the day, you just have to be like, okay, like, love keeps no records of wrongs. We talked about this last week. You're not supposed to remember the bad. You're not supposed to go into it looking for bad. You're not supposed to remember the bad. So it might be really hard, and, like, none of this is easy. But I think the whole Avery Woods thing, like, sparked something in my brain. Like, why am I going to sit here and be like judging her when I go through my daily life and sin, and she could point out X, Y, and Z things, or anyone could, but I don't have 2.5 million followers that I'm
getting put up past.
Yeah, putting my life out to, you know, like, it's just everything has
and too
something.
It's like, she's also not a Christian. She doesn't claim to be Christian. She doesn't know. Like, you can't judge people for what they don't know. Like, before they know the Lord, it's different. And if she was a godly woman, claimed to be a godly woman, and said that, I think it's a different standard, you know? Like, she doesn't know. I mean, you would think that's an obvious common sense thing to not say, but she doesn't understand the weight that it carries, and she doesn't understand, like, the power of words, obviously, to the extent that maybe a Christian does when bringing up Jesus. But yeah, like you said, all sins are equal, and people have to, like, you have to forgive. And it's one thing if she continually does it, but
she did come out and she was like, I didn't know, like, it won't happen again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And
we're human beings, guys. We're going to make mistakes and we're going to sin. We all sin every single day. Every single day. And Jesus forgives us every single day. But I think too, like, bringing it back to relationships, it's like you have to have, one, like, the discernment of the heart posture of the sin. If they're intentionally sinning, different. And two, if you're like, I don't know, simply pray about it. Be like, Lord, clarify, you know, like, allow me to understand, like, their heart posture behind this, and talk to them about it. And I think a lot of things can be cleared up through communication. But again, there's some, like, people who aren't, you know, honest and truthful, and they can be like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, like, it won't happen again. and they're lying, obviously, but like,
Obviously, you guys know where the line is drawn
Yeah.
for your standards in your life.
yeah.
So if you're getting cheated on, or
You have to like boundaries.
if he has a girl best friend,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, I'm using the cliche things here,
Yeah.
then probably not your man of God, probably time to pack it up and head out. But like, other than that, you're gonna have to forgive small things.
Oh, yeah. It's the small things you have to learn to forgive, but there's big things that I like to ask myself. I'm like, would God have placed my husband in my life? Like, would my husband that God picked out for me do this?
Uh-huh.
You know? And I'm like, the husband that God handpicked for me specifically, would he be cheating on me? Would he be lying and going behind my back or having like a girl best friend? Like, would that be? And if it doesn't feel right, and if that's something that like hurts you instantly, that's like conviction or discernment within you. That's like, ouch, no. Like if that's a boundary you have set or a standard that you don't want, one, it's important to communicate that beforehand. Because if like they got a girl best friend when you meet and then you're all of a sudden like, you can't be friends with her, that's a different story. But if all of a sudden he becomes homegirls, homeboy, whatever, like they're all close and stuff mid-relationship, she comes out of nowhere, that's a different story. It's also situational.
Yeah.
But there's a line between forgiveness and a line between like boundaries and standards. But I think it's so important right off the bat in a relationship, you gotta line up and you gotta like break down the boundaries and standards.
Yeah.
Like
Agree.
it's gotta be clear. Obviously, some of them you're gonna realize as you go into the relationship because every relationship's different and different things are gonna come to like light and come to surface.
Yeah.
And your reaction and response to things might change too, because as you grow in your faith, a lot in your life changes. Like the way I date and what I look for and the things that bother me and don't bother me have changed significantly.
That's so true.
So you have to keep the communication alive of being like, you know what? Like me and Kyler have to talk and be like, you know, this didn't bother me at first, but like now that we're a year into the relationship, things are different. Like my expectations are different. And that's okay. Like you can change your mind and you can have different opinions and morals and values, but like you can't just have them and not explain them and expect them to understand.
Yeah.
I feel like I just word vomited, but
No, that makes sense. Moral of the story is we don't know the situation of what you're trying to forgive or move on from, but there's no perfect relationship comes without forgiveness. Let's just be real.
that was
So
good.
that's just not gonna ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be here if like we just chose to never forgive each other, because we're always gonna hurt somebody else's feelings. Intentionally, unintentionally, it's gonna happen at some point, and you just gotta move on. Like talk about it, figure it out, move on. And like you can't keep bringing it up. I think like people argue so much about like things that are reoccurring over and over and over again. It's like we don't need to bring this back up. This happened. It's over.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I put it to rest.
We don't need to talk about it again. Like, unless it's relevant again.
Yeah.
Different.
Situations reoccurring, then it's something to talk about.
Yes. But like we said, it doesn't keep any record of wrongs. It's patient, kind, forgiveness, all the things. So
Yeah.
it comes with time, but
Totally.
you'll
And
figure it out.
forgiveness is hard, and it's something like you can work on too. Like some people are a lot less forgiving, and if you want to be forgiving, like that's another thing you can pray for and be like, Lord, like help me learn to forgive.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're praying for something, remember God doesn't just hand it to you. He makes you kind of work for it. So you're going to be placed in positions where you're going to have to forgive. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next question is how to protect your purity while dating. This one is a fun one. This one's a fun question.
I'm going to just say you got to like, that's like one of those boundaries and those things you off the freaking start. Literally, like it's going to feel weird. But like my friend who broke it off with that guy because it wasn't Christian, that's the first thing she talks about on our first date. She's like, I'm Christian. I'm abstinent and that's not changing. If that's going to be a problem for you, like this isn't going to work out.
Yeah. And I think it's literally as simple as that. Like, I feel like this will be a quick question because you can't really leave it up for interpretation unless you want it to be left up for interpretation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like, it is what it is. I wish I knew this sooner because like, I think as a girl, like, you seem like you're bossy or you're whatever
Mhm.
if you, like, have an opinion that early or if you whatever.
Mhm.
But the right person will understand
Yeah.
and they will, like, be okay with it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
totally.
saying? Like, I think their first reaction will be, like, very telling of
Mhm.
how that's gonna go or not.
And if they're like, "Oh, well, yeah," like, if it's like, "Oh, we can work on it," or, like, that's something we can, like, talk about in the moment, or, like, if they're not, like, harsh, like, "Yeah, I agree, that's also my moral, my value," like, that's a red flag to me, maybe a yellow flag. But, like, I feel like if I was in a relationship and I was dating, and I was on a first date, and I was like, "You know what? I'm not having sex," and they were like, okay, well, like, I'm open to that. That's still like a yellow flag. Like, I want them to see, I want that door shut and deadbolted. Like, they have to be as firm in that as I am.
If the light
And that's a personal.
isn't green, it's red. Okay.
I love that.
Be
Yeah.
for real. There's no yellow.
No.
It's either green or it's red.
Because the temptation is there. It's going to be there for you, even if you're firm and solid in your purity. The temptation is going to be there.
Mm.
So if there's even, the enemy's working against y'all. Remember that too. So if there's like a moment of temptation or weakness and that person isn't locked in either, like, it happens so easily. So easily. So for me, it's like, that's such a big thing for me, like, to protect that. And I would never even risk the chance. Like, to me, if they're not locked in, that's a risk. And that's such an important thing.
And this, like, happens over time. Like, at first I was like,
Yeah.
whatever. And then, like, over time, like, now I, like, don't even think about it as an option because like, it's not an option.
Mm-hmm.
But the growth and, like, the spiritual maturity that you grow in 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, is actually crazy. So maybe just give yourself more time to even, like, put yourself in situations where it could be
That's good too.
a situation, because if you're still, like, wishy-washy, but that's what you want to do, but you're still not, like, locked in, like, I wouldn't even,
If you, like, don't trust yourself, don't put yourself in a position where you have to rely on yourself to trust yourself.
Yeah,
Like,
and I'm sure we've both been on the other, like, side of this. We're like,
oh yeah.
ooh,
Before I was saved, y'all, and there was guys, I'm like, you know what? We're not even gonna, like, make out, nothing. You fall into the temptation. Like, it's so hard in the moment, you know? So it's like, yeah, we're human beings. We have, like, desires, and we're, like, created to desire that specifically. So it's so hard to fight against your flesh. But this is gonna sound weird too. It's like, even in the moment, like, pray. Because I promise you that is the one thing that will, like, flip the enemy will run. Yeah. Like, if you're in the moment and you're like, okay, getting hot, like, start praying. Because, like, prayer and that, like, sexy time kind of vibe, that's like oil and vinegar. They don't mix. Like, it's gonna be like a, ooh, you know? Like, that's like an emergency or not.
no out.
Yeah.
Fire was the problem.
Yeah. So literally just start praying. Like, even out loud. If you gotta kill the vibe, start praying out loud. Be like, Lord, please help me. And then it'll be like a helpful moment. I've never done that, but, like, I may have to utilize that at some point in my life. I don't know. I think it'd work. Another thing that I wanted to say, God, like, whoa, Chloe's praying out loud. Dang.
Very nice, right? What is going on? Oh my gosh, I really hope Darrison and Whitney don't listen to this. Our pastors, I listening to this. Good. If you're taken out, that was to get too hot.
It's like, start praying out loud. I promise it's gonna kill the
Our
vibe.
church is going to do a relationship series this week,
I'm excited.
and he does not hold back.
Oh,
So, honestly,
he'll probably see my white words.
he'd probably laugh.
Yeah. I think he'll think it's a great tip. Start praying out loud. It will kill the vibe. Anyway, another thing that I was gonna say, and this is the same topic but different, it's a whole different branch. Again, when you're dating, and even if they're a godly Christian man, you met them in the church, never assume they're also pursuing purity. You cannot assume. Like, you need to get a clear-cut answer and have a clear-cut, in-depth conversation, because the stories I've heard, you guys, I'm, like, mind blown at when I'm like, I just assumed they were waiting. I assume that. But, like, you would be amazed at how many people fall into that sin. It's so hard, and I'm not judging them, but it's, like, going to show, like, I assume this couple was remaining abstinent, and then if I assume they were, it's like, you can't also assume a guy's, like, intention is to do that. Like you
I'm just not even gonna say anything.
you know what I'm saying? Like you just assume. You can't assume. You just have to actually get a clear-cut answer from a guy you're pursuing. Because you got to hear it. Like you can't just be like, oh, yeah, they go to church, it's gonna be fine, and then you're in a moment, and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought like, whoa, like you don't even want to be in a position like that. So have the conversation.
Yep.
Have the conversation right away, first thing, right off the bat. Okay, not like if you start like texting something, like okay, but like if things are like progressing and you're going on dates and you're hanging out, like then
Imagine that was like your second text. Hey, so,
but like honestly, like it could be like it's. I guess it doesn't have to not be like. Don't waste your time.
yeah.
If that's like a non-negotiable. Like I guess I wouldn't want to waste my time talking to a boy if that wasn't going to be aligned. Okay. The last question: non-negotiables in Christian dating. Do you want to like give yours and then I can give mine? Because I feel like everyone's are different.
Yeah, I feel like this varies from relationship to relationship. And like our pastors talked about this is like we had non-negotiables in our relationship and like some of our close friends don't follow these rules, but whatever works for whoever is the way that you can do it. So I would say for me it's like no substance abuse or like drinking. I'm not like a big nicotine weed person. Some people claim that those aren't sins or they're not harmful for your body. I'm very against that stuff. I never really did any of that even when I wasn't saved. So like that was already kind of like a weird thing for me even when I was like dating in the world. Like I was just like I don't really want a guy that like smokes or does any of that, and like it just always was kind of like a turn off for me. So that's like probably like my biggest one that people are like, yeah, well we can still do that or we can still do this or whatever. I'm trying to think of like what else. Obviously no sex. I'm
trying to try if like my other. I'm like trying to mind like because the substance for me, it's like mine's a little different because it is like so dependent on the person. Like no weed, I'm not into that. But like a beer, a couple drinks, like not going out and getting drunk because being drunk is a sin. It's like I abide by that. But like if they want to crack a cold one on the boat or if they want to go to dinner and have a glass of wine or a drink, like that's okay. But I'm not going to date someone who's getting like intentionally drunk.
Kind of how I am with alcohol too. It's not like any of us really.
No, I can't tell you the last time I drank. But again, like Kyler and I actually were having a conversation last weekend on Valentine's Day when we were driving up. And I don't even know how it got brought up. But we were talking about drinking and he was like, you know what I realized? He goes, I can't, I guess, necessarily say I'm like sober because I probably will have a drink again in the future. I don't like have a desire or plan to, but if I'm like at the rodeo or if I'm like on the boat fishing and he was like, I probably have a drink. I'm like, yeah, like that's fine. Like that doesn't bother me at all. And then I was explaining, I'm like, yeah, I'll probably have a glass of wine at like an event or a wedding or a holiday. I'm like, there's nothing planned and I have no desire to do that, but I'm not going to claim to be like completely sober because I don't think it's a sin to like have a drink. In my opinion, it's like being drunk. I do. Like if you're feeling tipsy and you're intentionally going to get like slammed at a bar, that I'm not into that. I won't do that myself. But again, like the other substances like drugs and stuff, that's like a no, like a hard no.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I don't really know. Drinking one's hard because it's like my 21st birthday's coming up. So my friends are like, oh, like we'll go like get your first legal drink, whatever. And I'm like, I honestly like don't even know if I want to. Like I just like
no desire.
Now I'm just like, I just don't even feel the need to go and do that.
Yeah.
Like there's just like no point. I mean, if I'm not going to like feel anything, then what's the point of drinking it? You know what I'm saying? So it's like.
That's how I am. I'm like, there's just not a reason to either.
That's just me. I don't know. But I think guys look at it different. Like, oh, we're just having a beer. Yeah. And it's like,
you got, okay, well, guys are very different.
Whatever. But like, to me, it's not worth it unless you're going to feel drunk or feel tipsy.
Yeah. It was like just all or nothing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm going to drink, like, we're going to drink. Like, there's really no in between.
It's like a sin.
At that point, I'm doing stupid stuff and I'm drunk. So not a good idea. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my look on it. But I guess everyone's gonna have a
Everyone's different.
situation, but like we don't ever really talk about this because like none of us ever are in a situation to
have it be an issue. And that's like the beauty of being in a relationship with like aligned values, morals, routines, habits, like daily lifestyles, because it isn't an issue because we all just naturally do the same things. Like these issues don't really arise. So it was like when starting to date, it was like that was an important thing though to take into account of like Kyler and Jake are very like healthy, fit human beings, and that doesn't usually go hand in hand with like partying, drinking, all that. In some cases it does, don't get me wrong, but it's like you naturally like but other non-negotiables, obviously, purity is huge.
I feel like those are the two big main ones. Like other than that, like it's really not as strict as you guys think. Like I think people go into it and they're like, oh, well, they're Jesus freaks, so they don't do this, that, and the other. It's like they're honestly really easily.
Well, another one is like living together.
Oh, yeah.
I guess so until marriage. Like,
see, but like the thing is it doesn't even cross my mind because I just like don't even think about it. Like we all talk about all the time, like we could be saving so much money if we all like lived in a house together. Like, because we live on our own in Scottsdale, and then the boys live 15 minutes away together in like a 4-bedroom condo, and like we could all be living in their condo and be paying. I would be paying so much less money.
Probably a sixth of what I'm paying, right? I would be paying a sixth, you guys. I'm paying 5/6 more in rent.
That's crazy. I guess I never looked at it in the mathy fashion.
It's like there's sacrifices that I'm willing to make in a few years, and it's not a few $1,000s, but it's a lump sum of money is still worth it to me to have a highly and blessed relationship and highly favored relationship. Like to me, that's more important than money in the bank. And that's kind of Kyler and I's like outlook on it is like what will give us the most blessed and favored relationship, and that is abiding by scripture and following what scripture says. And the fact that we're both aligned in that is huge. Like that makes the non-negotiables easy. It's like you just follow what's in the scripture. There's no like wavering to it. Like when you're pursuing the Lord, it's just like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You know, you just
and that's why I think dating is so hard, because everyone say marriage is hard, but nothing in the Bible nothing in the Bible talks about dating.
No,
everything is either you're single or you're married. Like dating like wasn't a thing during the Bible. Like when it was getting written.
It's freaking hard. It's hard, you guys. Like it's actually so hard, especially like at our age where most of our friends are married. Most of our friends are living together already. Worldly people living together. And if they're not worldly and they're godly, they're married and they're living together. So it's like put me at 23 and Kyler at 25 in this like more difficult position, because you have to learn to not compare and you have to trust in your timing and your process. And you can so easily get impatient and want to rush things. And don't even get me started. Every relationship's different. But one thing I guess for me is like I will never rush into things just because I don't have the control and the patience to like live out the season of dating. That's a non-negotiable for me. Like I'm not rushing it. And it's so difficult, but it's like creating such a strong relationship within Kyler and I. And it's growing me in my faith and deepening me in my faith, because it's like making me physically dig deep. Because I'm like, I do want to live with Kyler. I've lived with an ex before. I know like how nice it is. It is nice. It's not like it's not. But I also know like the repercussions of living previous to being married. And I know the risks. And that's not worth it to me. But it's like, it's dating is hard.
It really is hard. And I think also when you put two, like our group 4, like really hard working driven people that are not like, none of us work a 9 to 5. None of us want to work a 9 to 5. None of us will work a 9 to 5 ever. Maybe me a little bit right now, but like
we are also 20.
Different situation. But still not even. We just have very different day-to-days than most people. But like we were over at the boys' house last night to have dinner. We thought we were gonna hang out with them. No, we sat on the couch. I watched we watched a crime documentary while the boys worked until 10:30 at night, and we were just like, all right, like there's nothing you can really do about it. You just have to make the time that you do get as valuable as it possibly can be. And like I'm a big like quality time person. Like I could just be chilling and like he could just be chilling and like
I just want to be in their presence. That's my thing. I'm like, Kyler, like if you need to do your thing, I can understand it, I can respect it, and that's a
that's one of our like strengths in our relationships, because his work is very important to him and same to me, and I understand that. So I can like accept it. But it's like, I just want to be in your presence. Like, you can be in your office. If I'm like with you, like that's all I really need sometimes.
Sometimes we'll both just sit in the ground in their office and we'll just be like, doo.
Yeah.
Like editing our videos, whatever. And like, they're just working. We're both just like, yeah. And so like their little bags.
We're just like attached to their hip. I'm like, literally, you don't even. And some people need different things. That's not going to work for everyone. And like, again, like that's why certain people work with certain people. Like, that's like a non-negotiable. So for some people, being like, when we're together, I have all of your attention and all of your time.
And I do get in moods like that.
Oh yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
well, that's still a need every now and then. But like, they give it to us enough to like satisfy it and for us to feel important and loved and seen. But it's like we work with them so well. Like, the relationship's healthy in that way because we can understand it.
It was funny. They both were on the couch last night and they go, yeah, they raise their hands and they go, girls, we know that you guys are over here to hang out with us, but we need to go up to the office for 30 minutes and get this stuff done. So you guys gonna be okay? And we were like, sure.
Yeah, well, I'll just stay sure. Like, it's okay. I'm like, yes, if you have our blessing, go. It was so funny.
We went upstairs. We're both like almost asleep watching this crime documentary when they come back downstairs. And then they're being so loud. I was getting so annoyed. I was just making a smoothie. I'm like, the bonder on. They're like, what's going on out there? We're like, guys, we watched this so you guys could do
We're on it. Like, yeah, it was funny. But
oh, it's so good.
you just like, that's the beauty in relationships, is like finding those little things that work and what doesn't. And you have to be very like aware of like your non-negotiables and what works for you, because like, there's just so much depth to a relationship, but there's like your Christian dating non-negotiables, but then you're still a human being and a person, have like preferences,
Personality,
who you date,
non-negotiables, like lifestyle, like
yeah.
Like there's just like Jake, one of his was like, if you were still living on a college campus, like I don't think I could have been with you. And I was like, why? And he goes, I'm not going to come and visit you and like hang out with you in your dorm or like in your college apartment. Like, that's just like not something at like my time in my life that I like wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I was really hoping and praying, like when we first started talking, that like you weren't doing that. Like, I couldn't have done it. So that was like one of his. And like, I don't really know why. I don't really ask questions, but I guess that was like something in his time in his life where he was like, I can't
Be in that environment necessarily.
Yeah. And like, good for him for saying that.
Yeah.
And mine honestly kind of was the same at that time too, where it just like, it just wasn't what I wanted. So it's, you figure it out. You kind of learn what you want, what you don't want.
I literally made a specific prayer list. I talked about it on here, but it was like, I pray that he is. And it was like, best friends with my brother, my like biggest cheerleader. We have similar lifestyles. Like, he makes me better. There were specifics. And those, I guess, in turn were like non-negotiables. Those were things I was looking for. And the Lord will bless you with the specifics. You know, like, you can get as specific as you want in prayer.
Yeah.
Like, God wants you to be happy, and he wants you to be like, get exactly what you want and need. It might not be what you think you want and need. Like, he's going to give you exactly what you need,
but what he wants.
It's
not what you want.
And they're not always the same, but most of the time it's pretty close. I feel like when you have like a preference for,
or you look back and you're like, oh, thank goodness I didn't get it my way.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, I look back at the guys I used to date and I'm like, whew. But I don't know. All in all though, I just think like the dating season is really hard. And I think it's taught me a lot about patience and forgiveness. It's made me a better Christian, because it's made me like, it puts you in moments where you don't want to be patient, you don't want to be kind, you don't want to be loving, because your emotions are so deeply intertwined in relationships. It's different. Like, me, like, things that Kyler does might upset me more than if Emma did it, because I have such an emotionally deeper tie to Kyler. And so it's taught me to like give grace and understanding and patience and love, no matter like who it is. You know, it makes you check yourself and it makes you a better person. But I just,
yeah, you kind of killed that.
Dating's hard, man. It is. And a lot of Christians, like, there's like a bad rap about too, like, Christians get married so early and they rush. And I see like two sides of it. One side, and this may be real, I might get hate for this, I don't know, but there's two sides that I see. So I'm not like judging. I just think it goes two different ways. But one, I think because you're Christian, you have such a deeper, real like perspective on what you want. You have values and you have morals. And if you remove a lot of the fluff, So it makes it so much easier to like see that person's heart, if it's gonna work, if it's not. It gets serious so much faster.
That, I forgot what I was gonna say, but like, if we're chasing towards the same, like towards the same thing, like it's normally more clear sooner
Yeah.
if that like is a yes or no. Like I said before, like if it's not red, it's green. If it's not green, it's red.
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of like Christian relationships or like Mormon relationships are like, okay, we're gonna get married right now, we're gonna have kids right now, we're gonna move in right now, like. But then you get the complete other side
Where people are just impatient and they want to have sex and they want to move in and all these sinful things.
and
It's like, oh, the solution to all these things is just to get married. And that I don't support. And I see why people fall into that, because I'm like tempted to do that too. I'm like, Kyler, just be so much easier if we live together. It'd be so much easier. Like it would be so much easier right now, but this is such a short temporary time in the grand scheme of things. If you're pursuing marriage, like when you're dating as a Christian, you're dating with the intent to marry. Like Christians don't just like date for funsies. It's like you have that in the like foreseeable future. Like that's the end. It's in the rule book, you know? And so it's like right now, this is hard. Like the season of dating that Kyler and I, there's so much beauty and like ease to it, but there's also so many challenges and it's the hardest thing ever. Same with marriage, but it's like we're dealing with different challenges. But like right now, I'd rather take hard. I'd rather take more expensive rent. I'd rather, you know, not see him as much if that means we're going to have a more confident, secure, healthy marriage, because that's for the rest of my life. So it's like you have to have that discipline to understand like you got to make a sacrifice now, and it's not going to be easy. You're going to want to like get married to just be comfortable and to do the things you feel tempted to do. But it's like you got to like work your way through the dating season, because you have to, I think you have, personally, this is my personal opinion, I think you have to earn marriage. I think you work your way up to marriage of going through things, learning about each other, having highs and lows. Like,
well, it's like hard choices, easy life, like
easy choice, hard life. Yeah,
hard life.
totally.
Like I think like when you take the easy way out,
Yeah.
you look back and you're like, wow, you shouldn't have done that. It's like when you like cheat on all your homework and you're, oh, boom, I got 100% on all my homework assignments. Then you get to the test and you're like, dang it, I don't know how to do any of this and I can't cheat right now. That's how I was in math all the time. I was like, dang it, I should have just freaking did my homework and studied, because now I'm going to bomb this test and now I'm screwed. Like, it's basically the equivalent of that.
Yeah, totally. That was a really good comparison.
Like, that's what I was. I was like, shoot, why didn't I just study, dang it? Oh, I would get so annoyed with myself every single time, and then I still did it.
I just think it's like, what, like studying is like dating, and you got to get everything out of it that you can. Go through the good, go through the ugly. Like, literally, like, I'd rather be, like, Kyle and I have had a lot of ups, and not a lot, but like, we've had ups and downs. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, going through these things, but we've always won, came out stronger in the end. But I'm like, I'd rather go through this now than when I'm married and there's like, no option. Like you're forced into it. You're stuck. Because like divorce is not in like my like, that's not going to happen. Like there's a very like extreme circumstance that it would happen. But it's like, I'd rather have the option of, is this going to work? Is this not? Is this something I do want to put up with the rest of my life? Is this something I can learn to accept? Is this like level up to my standard? You know, I'd rather have time to go through those motions, to accept those things, to learn about those things, and then be confident walking into marriage rather than being in marriage. I mean, like,
ooh, I don't know why I didn't figure this out early.
Yeah.
Because then you're stuck. Also, getting divorced is expensive, okay?
And damaging on a family.
Damaging on a family. You go into a second marriage feeling a little bit different.
Skeptical.
I mean,
right. Yeah.
it's just not setting yourself up for success. We're not saying that like you're a bad or horrible person if you're divorced or whatever. But it's just not something that I will be doing.
Yeah. Same.
So like I don't even know. It's hard to explain this to people that like don't really get it.
I know.
Like I'll talk about like this with birthday, like, oh well, you don't live with your boyfriend. I'm like, no. And like they just don't get it. And like that's okay.
You
Like
can't expect them to though.
you can, and like I was like that 2 years ago. I was like, oh, they don't live together, like why not? Or like, oh, they don't do that, why
I
not?
lived with my ex.
Yeah, it's like, well,
I had no conviction over it then, but now I'm like, oh, wouldn't do that again.
yeah.
So
And so you learn,
you
you
know,
grow, and you evolve.
yeah. And again,
It's
like,
great.
there's no judgment if you are having sex right now, or you are living with your boyfriend, or you're doing all these things. But there are stories, you guys, of people who are doing these things, and you can stop.
It's never too late.
You can move out. You can make change to like strengthen your relationship. You're not like damage done. Like God's forgiving, he's redeeming and restoring
everything.
Exactly. So it's like if you're in a relationship and you do love this man and it's like, oh gosh, like we lived together, we messed up. It's okay. Like you can still take action and like
Fix it.
yeah, like there's a story of this guy at our conference, and he and his girlfriend were living together, and then they grew in their faith and they began to get convicted about living together. He slept and lived in his car
Oh yeah.
in the winter in like a really cold state. Somewhere cold. Flagstaff. It freaking snows there. It gets like 30 degrees overnight, 20 degrees overnight. He was sleeping in his car. But I'm like, the sacrifices, I'm like, you don't understand. Like, God's going to bless that. That sacrifice and that commitment. And I just think too, like doing that shows your commitment and your sacrifice and your willingness to pursue the Lord and each other and how important it is. And like the whole like remaining abstinent thing for Kyler and I, it's like I would never cross that boundary for him because I know it's so important to him, and he would never cross that boundary for me because he knows it's so important to me. And that's what keeps that like promise so strong. Like I have no doubt, like I have no worry that like anything would happen because I trust him so much, and I trust myself not overstepping that boundary out of love for him too.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just rambling at this point, so.
No, I'm just kind of taking it all in. I'm kind of just sitting here like,
Yeah. Something's
crazy.
get going.
Oh, this crazy.
Yeah.
Time.
But
It's crazy. Can do a lot of things.
yeah. Anyway, though, if there's
That's our
anything,
questions.
yeah, I recommend just like praying about something if you're struggling with it or wondering about it or
For sure.
yeah.
Prayer is always what we're going to respond with. So
Yeah.
I hope you guys will catch on to that eventually.
Because it works
It really does.
and it's real.
It really does. I had to talk you off the ledge about it the other day. I was like, oh, wait, just pray about it. And she's like,
And then 2 days, I was like, Emma, the prayer was answered. He's like, I told you. And it wasn't like a small thing, you guys. It was a very deep, important, heavy, difficult thing.
but I could tell she was like, she does not like that answer right now.
I know. But I was like, gosh, you're like, I know you're right. I know I need to do that.
And she did. It worked.
And it freaking worked. The power of prayer is so insane too. And it's like having community to pray for you. Like you're praying for me. Is this praying for me? I was praying for me. A lot of people are praying.
Said I was praying for myself.
Like a lot. So
And it works.
it did.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, well, we're going to go over maybe more questions next week.
Yeah. If you have any more,
Yeah.
DM us.
In unison, may say.
Yes.
But
Yeah. That's all we have this week. We'll see you next week, and we'll see you in heaven.